Okay, so then let me briefly introduce about my first research. Maybe I'll use just 10 minutes because it was expanded to my current research, and maybe they'll be more interesting for you. So to make our world sustainable, we need to collaborate, right? We need to collaborate. We need to make a collective action. But people always asking this question, does my participation really matter? Because environmental problem is so big. And my using Tumblr or environmental behavior is maybe seems so small that it doesn't make any difference. Yeah, so again, if you do have questions, maybe you can use this. So recently published in JBR. So this is the process that I've gone through. So I submitted this paper and then publication. So for 1 and 8 months, 1 year and 8 months took. And first, it got a single review, fortunately, and they asked me to do 2 field studies because I only submitted experiments, and it was really challenging. But it was interesting. It was very, very interesting, 2 field studies. And then I got minor revision based on my field study, and then minor revision. Yeah, so I'm going to share my experience in field study as well. See, the only thing that will redeem mankind is cooperation. So we need to cooperate. Maybe climate change, we need to cooperate. Also in your research team or your teamwork, academic team, maybe you'll be very upset if other person not participate. That's the usual situation in group setting, right? We always work with someone for a collective goal. So I'm dealing with this psychological process. So the problem is that people feel that their efforts are not meaningful. So maybe there are a bunch of problems in when people collaborate, but I'm specifically focused on this perception that my effort is a just drop in the ocean, doesn't make any changes. So the solution, the research finding, is setting a collective goal, very concrete and numeric goals, and that make people feel that we are approaching to the goal. And that makes people feel that they make some meaningful contributions to the goal, not just to the goal, but to the world as well. So that's what I found. Maybe all of you already know this theory, right? Goal gradient theory. As people approach to the goal, their motivation gets higher, right? So this is a very basic perceptual understanding of people. So I'm mostly dealing with this very simple mechanism, actually, not very complex. This very simple mechanism to make people be motivated to participate for the environment, which means that if we set a very concrete goal, then maybe we can heighten people's motivation to participate for the environmental problems. So the research question is that, yes, already goal proximity heightens people's perceived impact of their behavior, and then it leads people to participate in collective action. Then my question is mostly, maybe the major finding contribution of this paper is that I defined how to measure perceived impact. Because many times it was not really, it was sometimes it was conflicting between papers. So maybe you can find details in the paper that professor already shared. Like I just said.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So for clarifications, can you please go back to the previous slides?
Yeah.
So in your setting, goal, it's try to understand the meaning of the goal and collective actions. So the goal, is that the goal that everybody should contribute to achieve it together, so that somehow it's more interactive goals, and then in that sense, collective action somehow requires some interactions among the participants? Or it's simply just different things, separate participants and they just don't interact. It just play as like a team without any interaction, so that the goal doesn't need to be just having these interactions among the participants. What is the setting?
The second one, because the setting is simply crowdfunding platform or donation goal, which does not require interaction, but maybe information of others participants other participants
But
just,
that
yeah.
was a donation setting.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what is the meaning of this collective action.
Collective action. Collective action.
Right. So that, like,
yeah.
let's say in the donation setting,
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna donate on a certain things.
Yeah.
I know that someone else will donate on these things as well.
Yes.
But there is no somehow the collective actions between me, myself,
Uh-huh.
and the other participants, other donors. For
That's
the,
right.
For the project. Right?
Oh, that's what you're saying. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
So what do you mean by collective actions in this setting?
Maybe you're right, because collective, the term collective action is used in, like, for example, group dynamics researches or social psychologists. In consumer behavior domain, they just refer probably pro-environmental behavior, or pro-social behavior. So the term, I just referred this term from the other discipline, but I think you're correct in that, because maybe collective action refers more team setting, interacting each other, like or making like synergy effect between each other. But in my research, this term just means pro-environmentally behave or pro-socially behave.
So if that was the case, then I think it's more individual decision rather
That's right.
than like as a team decision. So
That's right.
This kind of questions whether it can be called as like collective actions.
Yeah. That's a valid point, I think. Yeah. So the only difference between maybe individual, like Professor Kim just pointed out, the individual behavior and collective, what I call collective action or collective behavior, collective goal, is only difference is the setting that people somehow feel that we do have some, maybe it can be concrete or ambiguous, we are a part of some collective, part of team. But maybe I didn't have enough explanation about that. But in the paper, I made a table which explains about the difference between individual goal, collective goal, and group goal, trying to understand the difference between the setting. But actually, it was kind of I think really challenging for me, because pro-environmental behavior and pro-social behavior are still at individual level. And in marketing, they don't refer it as a collective something, or maybe in some paper they say that it's a shared goal or something like that. Yeah, but they didn't use collective goal. But I thought that it is a more appropriate term to be used in this research stream. So that's why I tried to introduce. But yeah. If yeah.
Please go ahead, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's a very valid point. Okay. So for his question, maybe you can go to the tables that I made in the paper, JBR paper. I made a table with difference between individual goal and collective goal and group goal. And I said crowdfunding or some donation campaign is included in collective goal setting. And individual goal, maybe that's a different thing. But maybe if you do have some insights, I need to think as well. So if you do have some insight, please after give some questions or insights on the slide. Thank you. Okay, so again, this process. And so I adopted collective efforts model from organizational psychology. So individual efforts, people need to believe that their individual efforts leads to individual performance and then individual outcome. So for example, if you do work hard, if you do study hard, then you get good grades and then you get a professor job. That's a process. But for collective efforts, if you work hard, yes, your individual performance will be heightened, but you're not sure because collective level is different. Even though you do best, if your colleague doesn't contribute enough, that it will be not heightened. And then collective outcome is, like I just mentioned, is very big. So this, you see, this is a bit complex and bit challenging. And people are not sure that this linkage will work. So that's why people don't work. In this paper, I defined the term perceived behavior impact, and it measures individual performance to collective performance. So I believe that efforts of individuals, collective, can make a difference in collective performance level. For example, if you and I if I work hard on recycling, then our community maybe reach certain level of recycling performance. Then it leads to maybe cleaner community, or maybe solving environmental problems. So that's a collective outcome expectancy. So the reason why I separated this concept is based on the organizational psychology. They do have a concrete theoretical foundation to distinguish these two concepts. But in marketing discipline, what I found was that when people say perceived impact, they sometimes measure this to this. Some paper measure this to this, and they do have conflicting findings. For example, if you measure my efforts matters for the world, then people don't answer, probably not answer that, yes, my recycling will make Earth healthier, right? This is too far. But if you measure this leads to totally different mediating mechanisms found in my research. Okay.
Professor,
Yeah.
Can I
Yeah,
ask
sure.
for my understanding?
Yeah.
So here in this framework,
Mm-hmm.
individual performance that impacts on the collective outcomes only could be done through the collective performance.
That's right. That's right.
Is there any direct impacts of the individual on performance on the collective outcomes? So going back to your
collective.
recycling
Okay.
example, right?
Uh-huh.
Let's say I'm going to do the recycling,
Uh-huh.
right? I hope that someone else will do the same thing with me, so that just somehow collective performance will be improved.
Mm-hmm.
That will make the world more sustainable.
Yes, yes.
So that was your story, but is
Yeah.
there any chance for me that I do have expectation that I'm gonna do the recycling? Of course, it must be the part of it.
Yeah.
But at least I didn't just waste any plastic to the world. So at least my behavior make the world cleaner, at least in the current status.
Yes.
Right. So in that sense, if that was the case, then probably there is a direct impacts of the individual performance on the collective outcomes.
Yeah, sure,
So
sure.
I don't know whether that was only through the this collective performance mediating process, or is there any direct impacts?
Direct impact from here to there.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, conceptually, definitely yes. But the reason, conceptually, there's definitely yes. Yeah.
But why
Yeah.
did you set up the model in that way? Then?
Oh, the reason why I set up and separated these two is that, like I mentioned, so the performance, your efforts, performance, and outcome, this logic is very clear, right? This is very clear. And like Professor Kim just pointed out, it's also possible that you just measure performance to outcome. And that's what usually marketing scholars have done in their research. My contribution matters for the world or for sustainability. And maybe in the literature review, I mentioned that a lot of times people find conflicting results. And mostly what they found was that this mechanism doesn't work as a mediating psychological mechanism. Yeah. And
Rational.
rational why? Because maybe, in my understanding, maybe that's too big. Maybe that's too far. And that's too ambiguous or, yeah.
In which sense? Still kind of curious.
Which,
Ambiguous, why?
because
Why
of,
is it ambiguous?
because I mean the outcome, collective outcome, or the problem itself is very big or huge. Maybe that's why. That was my assumption. The reason why a lot of researchers don't show that perceived impact doesn't make people to participate in collective action or collective efforts. And recently, some researchers, they propose they try to develop different construct called like participatory efficacy, something like that. And they try to mention that my my contribution, my participation, my behavior makes meaningful difference in some level of performance. Maybe they yeah.
I think that what I asked was, I buy your idea that probably the impacts of individual performance on the collective outcomes will be coming from this mediation process. But what I'm arguing is probably that's not the only case.
That's not the only case.
And then probably there is some direct impacts of the individual performance on the collective outcomes. That was the motivation for the efforts for the consumer, probably.
Sure.
And then my question is, why did you rule out that?
I rule out that.
And then what you said is, previous literature said like that's not possible, it's ambiguous. But what I asked was, what was the rationale behind that thought? Why is it ambiguous? Why is it far away? Which setting, like in that paper? Probably I don't know that paper much.
Yeah.
I'm just for my curiosity. Which setting that that's far away and that's just ambiguous?
To be more specific, if I measure the construct that you just mentioned, then maybe the measurement would be my contribution matters to solve community environmental problem. Yeah, that can be possible.
So for example, let me give you a simple example, right?
Yeah.
So I just want to make my neighborhood clean.
Yeah.
So I just want to collect the trash every single day. Right?
Yeah.
And according to your theory,
okay.
If I just collect the trash,
Yeah.
then probably other people will just follow with me because they feel like it's kind of cool things.
Yeah.
That they're just going to collect the trashes as well. So that ultimately that make our community cleaner.
Yes.
But in the other way around, if I think about it, if I just collect the trash, right? If I just pick up the trash, then probably without having impacts on the others, I just make our neighborhood clean.
Yeah.
Because I just collect the trash.
Yes.
We just got rid of it.
Yeah.
So that that roots might exist, and then I just wonder why did you just rule out that channels?
Yeah, that's a valid point because I could have measured the one that you mentioned, like other marketing papers, like you just mentioned. My doing some environmental picking up trash would make our community cleaner. I didn't actually measure that because I thought that you asked about the rationale. My answer is that because the previous research, their findings were conflicting, and that's why I actually ruled out maybe that in some case maybe that will work. But in other cases, it will work. It won't work, and so because the research findings were conflicting, so I tried to adopt it more logical model from the organizational psychology or social science, which emphasize the process of achieving social impact. So other discipline they do somehow separate performance level and outcome level, and it does have different perceptual background because this one may be more on behavior part, this one is more on hope or optimism side. So there are some literature trying to explain more about that, but I think I'm still trying to find maybe. And if you ask about the reason why I adopted this logic, I just simply adopted from the another discipline, which well explains about this. But I didn't measure, so But
as you said, in your data, you just collect that that impacts of individual performance and the collective outcomes, direct impacts, right? And then if that was not the significance, you can just simply.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I mean. Okay. I didn't measure it, but. Maybe it could have been a good.
You say you measure it or?
No, I didn't measure that.
You didn't measure.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that why didn't you measure this component and you show them that this mechanism doesn't work statistically?
That's what I thought.
Yeah. So that's a very valid point. Yeah. I didn't measure that.
If you buy with
Yeah,
my idea, but if
yeah.
you don't buy with my idea,
No, that's very good because with that data, maybe I could have argued to the marketing scholars that the way you measure social impact, behavior impact was not working because you didn't discretely measure this, but if you do separate this, it works. Maybe I can explain that way, I don't know.
I was just kind of curious
Yeah.
about this double mediation process, which would be hard.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I did 5 studies, 2 field studies, and 3 control experiments. This is a brief explanation about the first field study is this. Actually, this is implemented in the many local governments. So if you do collect, if you pick up some trash, then they do give financial compensation. So I made this graph. This is low far goal condition. This is near goal condition. So we, as a student, Korea University student, you collectively picking up the cigarette. Okay, not picking up cigarette, but for smokers. So you throw, not just randomly throw in the streets. You need to put in the specific this box to collect this amount. This was a field study setting. And I witnessed people do seeing this graph, and they do put or randomly still throw. And the second field question was done in Korea University. It's a blood drive for the environment. So there has been a Red Cross campaign. Interestingly, they use this 고연전. Yeah, so they use somehow marketing tactics to invite people. So they installed this, not me, but they installed this, and I manipulated the situation. For example, if this is actual number, but if I just manipulate the Yonsei universities, then people will think that we need to win with Yonsei, right? So this is a near goal condition. Oh, we are near, we are almost there. Maybe if I do this, maybe we can win. But this is too far. So I manipulated Yonsei University level. And the third experimental situation is a crowdfunding campaign. And crowdfunding amount was explained by text. So 5% of the campaign goal or 95%. Okay, number 4, this is actual app application. So if you do use Tumblr reusable cup and do tag this QR code, then it collectively accumulate people's number of using Tumblr, and they donate for the environment. This is the actual case. Okay, so I show them 5%. We can all together use 20,000 times, or 95%, and 35. This is a donation. Donation goal, we have achieved 5% or 95%. So this was the total setting of what I did. And the finding, research summary, is that as people approach to the goal, it leads people to think that their behavior matters for collective performance. And then it heightens people's expectation that maybe we can solve environmental problem. And then it makes people to participate. So, yeah. Okay, so this was a brief explanation about that. And maybe I can just explain you about okay, I think maybe due to the time limit, maybe I jump into the next project if you do not bother, or yeah, if you don't have any specifications regarding this.
What was the results? Can you
Oh yeah, results.
The main result.
Okay. Okay, so for example, in research 1, in study 1, This field study showed that goal proximity enhanced people's participation due to perceived behavioral impact. And from the study 3, so you see here cigarette butt, people behaved pro-environmentally when the goal is near. So you see this wider bar. People didn't behave in a positive way in far goal condition, but in near goal condition, people behaved in a positive way. There was a result of field study. And blood donation. In far goal condition, 54% of students donated their blood, but for near goal condition, 70%. Yeah. Yeah.
When you conducted the blood donation study,
Yeah.
I was curious that I thought your context was the pro-social collective goal.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
I think it is too strong that the sentiment between Yonsei and Goryeo is quite strong.
Mm-mm.
So maybe they participate not just for the social purpose, but to just win the Yonsei. I was wondering, how did you control the special situation?
Yeah, that's a good question, and that might be true that because of a rivalry between Yonsei University and Korea University, they could have donated. And I actually didn't measure it or control it. And I just do 30 minutes far goal, near goal condition. And for measurement, I did survey it, and I did measure some perceived behavior impact, but I didn't measure, for example, you feel rivalry against Yonsei University. I didn't ask the question, and I didn't controlled or ruled out that. And I just showed that through the mediation process analysis, it has a strong impact on the goal proximity, has a strong impact on PBI, the mediating mechanism, perceived behavior impact. Yeah, so answer is I didn't rule it out. I didn't measure it. Because it's a field setting, and I just ask the measure, only measure that I'm interested. Yeah. Maybe that can be the limitation, or maybe you can point it out. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, and then third one is also this crowdfunding platform. People showed higher intention to purchase the product, and I measured these two components, and it showed the sequential mediation. And also in using Tumblr situation, people behaved high in this situation, and then also this sequential mediation was valid. And for donation setting, in this study, yeah.
I'm not really sorry. I really
No.
It's my understanding problem, I guess.
Yeah.
Can you please go back to the previous slides for
Yeah.
the mediation part?
Okay.
So I'm just asking for my understanding. To hold the sequential mediations, the node from perceived behavior impacts on the collective actions mediation, right?
Yeah. This one.
Should that be insignificant?
For sequential mediation, for example, that was all valid in my research. Yeah, I mean all of my studies show that the impact of PBI on collective action intention is valid.
So not about your study, but
Yeah.
overall.
Like, yeah.
If the sequential mediation, doesn't that mean that the impact of just collective goal proximity on collective inattention, intention should be mediated through the perceived behavior impacts and collective outcome?
Only that way, you mean?
Right, only that way.
Yeah.
So if there is any impacts from perceived behavior impacts on the collective action intention directly,
You think it's not a sequential mediation, just a simple mediation?
So
thing.
I think my
Yeah.
question is like the
Yeah.
impact of collective goal proximity is
Mm-hmm.
on the collective action intention through the perceived behavior impacts.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mediation hold?
Yeah, hold.
Then it couldn't be sequential mediation. Then.
Sequential mediation.
Cannot be.
Mm.
Right, because the impacts
Yeah.
of the goal proximity, the collective goal proximity on the collective action intention through this double mediation process, one is perceived behavior impacts
yeah,
and then
yeah.
followed by the collective outcomes.
Okay.
But the impact of the collective goal proximities on the collective action intention through the perceived behavior impacts, if that mediation holds, then it's not the sequential mediation, is it?
Maybe I think you're right. Yeah, maybe I was wrong in using maybe it's a sequential mediation because I just used, like I said in the paper, it does show this only this significant relation between also it shows PBI and collective action intention significant. I mentioned it's a sequential mediation effect. I didn't know that if you do have this, then it is not sequential mediation. That I didn't. That was not my understanding.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought that if you.
We'll share more later because I'm
Yeah.
confused too.
Okay.
Just to clarify.
Yeah. And for other studies that I didn't include, actually this was sometimes not significant. So maybe that's why I didn't focus or pay enough attention on that. It always worked because I do have several studies and sometimes it worked, but sometimes it didn't work. But this path was always working. So I thought that, this is still valid because, that's what I...
The reason why I'm confused is I agree with the fact that path works.
Yeah.
But to make it as like the sequential mediation,
sequential mediation.
only that path should
Okay,
work. Any
okay.
other paths other than that channel shouldn't work.
Okay, I see.
I don't know. That's my understanding. Is that your
But that was not my understanding, but I just assumed that you're right. So maybe I was wrong in using sequential
Probably
mediation.
I'm confused too. Right?
Yeah.
Okay, because that was my understanding.
Yeah, but I have actually never thought about that because I tried to check several researches on using sequential mediation, and if that was the case, probably I would have not used sequential mediation, but I need to check. Yeah, I need to check. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
When there is just a single mediator, there's full mediation and partial
Yeah,
mediation.
I know that part.
Maybe this is the case of partial or sequential mediation. I guess.
Give me the case.
Even that was the case, I thought like to make it as like a sequential mediation, so only that channel should work through this double mediation process. But the I don't know, probably I'm confused.
Okay, I will check. And for this study was interesting because I want to introduce this because so far I have checked this mechanism, right? This mechanism, and in study 4, I wanted to demonstrate the role of PBI. To test this, I used the moderation process. So I controlled PBI to low using the scenario of large contributor. For example, if each rich person contributes significant amount of money in a donation campaign, then you probably compare your contribution with the rich person, and it will reduce your PBI. So I conceptually show this graph. I show this figure. And through information of large contributor, I lowered PBI. And if lowered PBI makes this mechanism don't work, I assume that in this process, PBI does mediate and does important role. So I gave large contributor scenario and found that 2x2 condition, when large contributor exists, people think that their behavior does not really count. This is PBI, sorry. Does not really count compared to the original scenario. That makes sense. So I controlled the difference between PBI, between far goal and near goal condition. and show that this shows moderated mediation model, and also sequentially it does have this moderated mediation, double mediation effect. So this, I used model 83 in this. So the result, in my opinion, the results show that pitching a goal and showing progress toward it is an effective way of promoting collective action for the environment. And second, making people feel that their contribution matters to collective performance positively influence expectation and hopes for future outcome. And the third one, the goal, proximity, and PBI should be carefully calibrated, because if you want to achieve collective goal fast, then probably you invite large contributors, but actually that makes people to leave, don't participate. Because the perception that my individual behavior matter is very critical in inviting people to do that. And the second finding is from this. The professor pointed out that maybe I think his point is valid, because it may not seem that this mechanism doesn't necessarily be here, right? Because you already have this mediation. But the reason why I measured this is that this is also important part of promoting people's behavior, because it talks about hope. It talks about your optimism of solving climate crisis. And a lot of times researchers do research this component only, and maybe it won't work, but I try to show that you can increase people's hope through making people that their behavior counts.